because I recently saw an article about the delisting of the 3DS on the Nintendo of America website. Now, we're not going to go into that article straight away, but that is going to be basically one of the prominent ones. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go through a few articles that were leading up to that one that basically were talking about how the DS, or the 3DS, my bad, is a dying, or it's a dead system. That's basically what they were all trying to say. And yes, before we go anywhere else, some of these articles are from a while back. So let's jump in. The first article is from July the 30th, and basically the title starts with, "Sorry Nintendo, but the 3DS really is dead now." And then the little piece underneath it, 200,000 units sold in the last quarter. Because for some reason, that makes the 3DS a horrible and dead system. If it's gotten 200,000 units sold. Now, that tells me that the system isn't really dead just yet, right? That's not exactly a horrible number. 200,000 units being sold is actually pretty good, considering that the system is basically about to become obsolete. Now, that's an almost about to be obsolete, right? Let's get into the article. The 3DS is a remarkable machine and has played host to some of the best games of the past decade. However, every console has its time in the sun, and despite Nintendo's protests, the 3DS really is dead now. In Nintendo's latest financial report, it was revealed that the 3DS sold just 200,000 consoles in the period between April and June 2019, bringing its total worldwide sales to 75.28 million. By way of comparison, the Switch shifted 2.13 million systems over the exact same period, which gives you an idea of just how irrelevant the older machine is now. Now, this is where I disagree with this article. I don't think that the 3DS is irrelevant by any means necessary, right? At all. If you're thinking about this as an irrelevant system, I think it's still a damn great system, right? Sure, it's definitely on its way out. Right? But it's not irrelevant. It's got some great games that you can play, and the 3D feature that is unique to that system is pretty damn awesome in itself, right? So let's be completely honest with ourselves when we talk about the 3DS and consider that it's a dead system. I wouldn't say that it's dead by any means, right? And then we look at the comparison that they give, which is obviously there to write a narrative that says that they pretty much need to get rid of the 3DS by now. Okay, the comparison says that the Switch is having these greater sales of 2 million as opposed to 200,000, right? Now, it should be pretty obvious to everybody why the Switch itself is having greater sales. Not only is this a truly portable console, right? A home console that is portable. Let's just think about that for 1 second. And it's not like the Game Boy or the DS lines where they had their own little games that were made basically miniature of this great mainline system, mainline video games. This system, the Nintendo Switch, can play mainline video games on the go. That's freaking huge, okay? That's amazing. That's why the system would obviously be selling better. Or how about the fact that, let's remember this, right? The Nintendo Switch is a newer system. The 3DS has been out for ages. Let's go with it. It was released in 2011. So that's what, for 8 years that's been selling? And now the sales are getting smaller. Obviously, it makes sense. But still seeing 200,000 units, how is that not a good thing? How is that not good for Nintendo, right? Let's continue with this article. Now, contrast this with what Nintendo of America President Doug Bauer, which I'm pretty sure is meant to say Doug Bowser, said recently. Our 3DS business continues to do quite well. I agree. Retailers continue to support both the hardware and the software, and as long as there's a consumer demand for 3DS, we'll continue to support it. In fact, we believe it's a great entry point for young gamers. A 2DS at $79 with a game included is a great value proposition for a young gamer coming into the Nintendo ecosystem. That's a fair assessment, the article goes on to say, but the latest sales figures go a long way to disproving Bowser's optimistic stance. I completely disagree with this. The 3DS is certainly good value for money, but it would seem that Nintendo consumers are focused on Switch now, which makes the upcoming Switch Lite even more valuable as it offers an entry-level option for younger players. The final big 3DS game was recently canned in Japan, and it's also been confirmed that the 3DS YouTube app will close in Nintendo's homeland this September. Now, let's go here. First, I'm going to say that I agree completely with what Bowser said. Okay, the 3DS and the 2DS, great entry points for younger gamers. They are they're just spectacular in that sense, right? The games generally they're more child friendly on the 3DS and the 2DS. On that system, that line, they're more child friendly. Let's be honest, right? And the content, it's still fun. It's still fun for me as an adult. It's still fun for children. It's fun. Okay, it's a great system. I think the system is doing quite well in stores if you look at the sales that they're getting, and they're definitely selling out, right? They're definitely selling it, sorry, not selling out. They're selling the 3DS system. So it's not dead, right? And anyone, these articles that are trying to paint this narrative that the 3DS is dead already, it's not yet, at least. It's going to die, don't get me wrong, but that after 8 years, you would expect that this system is going to die, considering that the regular turnaround for a console is about 6 years, right? That's around about 6 years. You got that between the PS1, the PS2, the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, sorry, and the N64. It's about 6 years. That's generally what you're looking at. I think the Nintendo was a lot longer, but that was because it revolutionized the whole system, the whole area, right? It revolutionized that whole industry. That's what I was looking for, trying to say. But then the article pulls the focus, right, back to the Switch, which is an obvious choice. The Switch is new. It's portable, and like I said before, the thing plays console games, home console games, on the go. That's huge for the video game industry. But echoing what Bowser said, basically, the $79 entry point for a 2DS coming with a game is way better value for younger gamers than $200 to $300. That's American, by the way. Australia, I think, is a little bit more costly over here. With, I'm going to say, probably no game. $200 to $300 with no game, or $79 with a game. Which one would you choose? Let's be honest. Actually, let me know down below. Which one would you choose? And I'd imagine that the bundles for a Nintendo Switch would be way more costly. So which would you go for? Honestly, like, put that down there in the comment section. Would you prefer a 2DS or a 3DS with a game? Let's say a 3DS with a game is $100, right? American. Would you prefer that? Or would you pay $200 to $300 for a Nintendo Switch without a game? Which means you're probably going to pay about, let's say, $350 to $360 for one with a game, with one single game. What would you go for, honestly? Then they go to this talk about the final game for the 3DS being cancelled in Japan. Does that mean that the system is dead? Honestly, does that mean that it's dead? Let's go to the second article, right? Let's look at the second one here for a second. It looks like the final Japanese 3DS title has been canned. The true end of an era. And that's a good question to ask. Is it the true end of an era? I mean, it says it all, right? That one has been finished. And this, mind you, was 1 month prior to that article. Okay, so everyone seems to be trying to push this consistent narrative for Nintendo that the 3DS is a dead system. And funnily enough, I don't believe it at all, right? Not yet. I'm going to say this consistently through this. I don't believe that the 3DS is a dead system. I think it's a great system. It has a lot of value still, and it's still making good damn sales. So why would it be considered a dead system? Maybe they want to just run it out. I think they just want everyone, in Nintendo specifically, to focus on the Switch, which I'm pretty sure that they're doing, just so we're all aware. Now, it may not have more games developed for the system, or a whole lot more games that are going to be developed, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be dead. It's not. It's probably, like I've said before, it's kind of like an old person walking around. Should we just kill them? Should we just get rid of them? Because they're dead, technically. That's what this article basically says, right? Let's go into this article. While Nintendo won't come out and actually say it, the 3DS is pretty dead now. All of the major publishers and developers have shifted their attention to the Switch, which, before we continue, makes freaking sense. And as a result, the older handheld system has seen its list of releases dry up completely. 2019 is looking pretty barren for 3DS owners as far as new releases are concerned, which isn't a problem. Let's just stop there for 1 second. That's not a problem. You now have a serious, if you're going to get into owning a 3DS now, you have a very serious back catalog to go through. So if you're going to buy one now, you're looking at a very good lineup of games to play. You don't need to necessarily get newer games that are coming out. Let's continue with the article. However, a game announced during a Japanese Nintendo Direct in 2018 was supposed to be on the horizon. Mixie's Mobile Ball was shaping up to be a rather unique action sports title that would feature crossplay with a smartphone edition. Sadly, the company has now confirmed that the game has been cancelled due to it not reaching the quality level required for release. We're not going to go into that last part. If you want to look at the article, you can go check it out. You've got the title, that's fine. Now, this is again something that doesn't make the system dead. Just so we're all going to be very aware of this, right? The system, it's not dead at all. Let's look at the end of the article says, despite its popularity in Japan, where it sold fantastically well, the 3DS is now seen as old news. Mostly because there's a new system out, but let's not worry about that. By players who have fully embraced the hybrid Switch, the cancellation of Mobile Ball could well mark the true end of the 3DS's lifespan. From what I can see here, and this is just me looking at this, maybe the developer, right, just didn't want to put it out on the 3DS because the game maybe wasn't the way that being developed the way they wanted it to be developed. Maybe they couldn't make or achieve a level of quality for gamers that they were going to put out that they just didn't like or didn't feel like they achieved, so they decided that they were going to stop. Or maybe, and it is possible, right, they did give up on the system because it's fairly old, and that's, for them, it makes sense if you're thinking about what they're doing, right? They're giving up on a game, on a system that is fairly old, because they may not have made as much money in sales for that system as they wanted to. So why would you, in any way of thinking about this, release a game for a system that people are not going to really pick it up, right? People will still buy it and people are still playing the 3DSs, but they're not going to pick up a new game, or as many people wouldn't pick up a new game for that system as they probably want. Now, from a business perspective, that makes sense. I wouldn't release a game that cost, let's say this game cost $10 million to make, and if they're only going to get $10 million back, why would you release that game? It doesn't make sense at all, okay? But then the article, again, switches and basically blames the consumers. Well, let's go not blaming the consumers, right? But this is their reason, right? The 3D is seen as old news because of the Switch. The 3DS, it's an older system, and people are gaming on their Switch more frequently. For sure, that makes complete sense, but that doesn't solidify this argument that the system is dead. I'm sorry, I cannot buy this idea from these two articles already that the system is dead. And like I said, maybe if we see some 90-year-olds that are walking the street, we should just put them in their graves already, right? Because they're just dead people that are walking around. That's basically what this article is saying about this system. And yes, I know that that is a very seriously crazy analogy or metaphor, but it's basically the same thing. They're trying to say that this thing is dead before it's actually dead. It's not dead just yet, and that's the thing that I have a problem with. By the way, this narrative that's being painted for Nintendo that the 3DS is dead, but it's not yet. And this is what I want to just really paint and push for you guys to understand. If you don't have a 3DS, go out and get a 3DS. There is a lot of games on there that are still great to play today. It doesn't mean that just because the sales are going down to $200,000 per quarter, units per quarter, not $200,000, 200,000 units per quarter, that's not a bad thing, right? And as long as the sales stay at, let's say, 200,000 to probably a minimum of about 100K per quarter, I'm pretty sure the system is still very much alive. But now let's go to the very final article. And I know, look, this video is quite long, so I'm going to try and keep this short for you guys. The next article goes on to say, Nintendo's North American website now only advertises the 2DS line. But what about the 3D one? Now, this may look like the nail in the coffin or the hammer on the head, or maybe it's just that I don't want the system to be dead. But this definitely looks pretty bad. I will admit that. When we look at the title of the article, this looks horrible for the 3DS system. Let's go into what it says here. The 3DS is easily one of the greatest Nintendo systems of all time, thanks to the vast library of games and fancy features that took handheld gaming to the next level. As its time in the spotlight draws to a close, Nintendo appears to have officially phased out the 3D model on its North American website. As spotted by the Twitter user @FamilyHomeAck, and I don't know if I said that wrong, so if I did, my apologies, the 3DS section of the webpage now only advertises the 2DS systems, and you can see @FamilyHome has put up the picture there for you to see. Let's go into the next section of this article. While the 2DS has proven to be the more accessible and affordable system, we never imagined it would outlast what is essentially the superior model. The slogan, "See what the Nintendo 3DS family can do" on display may also be a tad confusing now that there isn't a 3DS in sight. This change isn't necessarily reflected on Nintendo's other websites, and that I think is very important, just so that we're all aware. In different regions, some still show the 3DS and 3DS XL as well as where you can buy these devices from. To date, the entire 3DS family has sold more than 75 million units worldwide. And then obviously, are you surprised, etc., etc. You can read the article by yourself. You can go find it. I'm not going to go through any of the ridiculous parts of the article. Now look at this. This is the thing that I think is very obvious. Nintendo knows, right, that they're not going to sell the system forever. It's not possible. Everyone's going to go move on to the newer things, and especially with the things like the PS5 and the Xbox, whatever the Scarlet that they're calling it, I think for now, around the corner. I think they understand that by now the Switch is their home run device. It's the superior model for portable gaming for Nintendo. So they're not stupid in this sense that they're going to just try and say, hey, we're going to sell the 3DS forever. I don't think that's their plan at all. I think that they're going with this very clever idea, and especially with the release of the Switch Lite, that will probably take over the 2DS line, right? So I think that they're making the smart play here. At least in North America, the 2DS is probably seeing a lot better sales than the 3DS, right? Because it's a cheaper device. It makes sense. You would buy the cheaper device too. If you knew you were going to be able to play the same games, what's the point, right? But the fact that the 3DS is still listed on other Nintendo sites around the world, and I said that was a very important part, would tend to make me believe, and it should make you believe as well, that this is not a dead system. It's not dead just yet, right? Even though the companies, they may want you to believe that, and I'll reiterate, right? It's very obvious why the Switch is selling better. It's the newer system. It's a portable home console. That makes a huge difference when you're talking about sales and what people want to do and want to play. If I'm looking at playing, say, a game like Doom, and I know that I can play it at my house on my PS4, because I have a PS4 and I love to play it on there, or I know that I can get a Switch and play it on the go as well. If I really love Doom and I'm very keen to play a game like Doom, why wouldn't I get it on the go, especially if I'm a huge fan of that. Now with the next Doom coming out, I'm pretty sure as well it's coming out on the Switch too, so why would I not want to play that game if I really, really love it and have been excited about it for ages on the go? It doesn't make sense to say, hey, the system is dead, but it does make sense for Nintendo to position a newer system in a way that is going to take out the older systems, because the older systems aren't making as much money. Makes sense. It's not dead yet, right? And does that mean that the 3DS is a dead system? Not at all. Not yet, right? Does it mean that it's on the way out? Yes. That's the way that they should be painting these articles, right? I admit that. I think it's definitely on the way out, but it's not dead. Not dead yet. Okay. Now, the final thing that I want you guys to take away from this is I just want to remind everybody that these systems, there are systems out there that might look dead, right? But that doesn't mean that they are. And to me, articles like these ones that we've looked at today paint this picture that the 3DS or systems like the 3DS are no longer worth getting, worth buying, worth paying attention to, because they're dead systems. But with a great games library, right, and some great features like the 3D feature, I wouldn't say that it's a dead system. I'd say that or it's a system that's not worth getting. I think it definitely is. And if you haven't got a 3DS, go out and grab one and check out the catalog, the back catalog that you have 8 years worth of games to go through, right? That you can play. But it's up to you, right? Whatever you choose to do, it's up to you. Anyways, look, guys, this video is way longer than I thought it was going to be. I wanted to try and keep it short for you. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that subscribe button. Think or consider giving it a thumbs up for me. It lets me know what you guys enjoy and how you guys like, what topics you want me to focus on for future reference. And let me know as well if you think that the 3DS is a dead system. As always, guys, spread some peace, spread some love and some positivity, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.